The story of King Saul is like a fable of rise and ruin, a tale of hope crushed by pride and ambition. What if the person chosen by God, the one destined to lead a nation, could fall so far from grace? This is not a mere historical account. This is the story of King Saul, the first king of Israel. His journey from anointed leader to rejected ruler raises questions about leadership, humility, and obedience. Welcome to Story of Grace. In today's video, we're diving into the rise and fall of King Saul, a man chosen for greatness, yet undone by his own decisions. Stay tuned and don't forget to subscribe to Story of Grace for more inspirational stories like this one. Let's explore the choices that led to Saul's fall from grace. The rise of Saul. Saul's story begins in an unlikely place, a humble family in the tribe of Benjamin. But God had bigger plans for him. In a twist of fate, Saul, while searching for his father's lost donkeys, met the prophet Samuel. Little did he know this meeting would change his life forever. Samuel, guided by God, anointed Saul as Israel's first king, setting him on a path few could have predicted. Saul's rise was nothing short of spectacular. With his towering stature and handsome appearance, he quickly became the ideal figurehead for a united Israel. His early reign brought victories, especially over the Ammonites, and Israel's hope was renewed. But with success came challenges. Did Saul truly have the character to lead a nation, or was his rise simply a product of circumstance? As we move forward, we'll see how the man chosen by God slowly allowed his pride to get in the way of his faith. God's favor. Saul's reign began under God's favor. The Israelites were united under his leadership, and with every military victory, Saul gained the support of the people. But power, as we know, can be a double-edged sword. At the start, Saul followed God's guidance and demonstrated humility. However, as his successes piled up, something started to change. Saul's victories began to feed his ego. His reliance on God's wisdom started to fade, and in its place, his own judgment took center stage. Saul didn't just rely on his military skill or his appearance anymore. He began to trust in himself too much. His personal decisions, not always aligned with God's commands, started to erode the foundation of his kingship. Could this once humble leader maintain his connection with God, or was the world of power and influence too much for him to handle? As we'll see, this shift marked the beginning of his downfall. The turning point. A crucial moment in Saul's life came when his impatience led to a major mistake. In 1 Samuel 13, Saul's army was facing an imminent threat from the Philistines, and the people were beginning to panic. Samuel had instructed Saul to wait for him before making a sacrifice to God. But as the days passed and the people grew restless, Saul couldn't wait any longer. He took matters into his own hands, performing the sacrifice himself. This decision, though seemingly minor, was a direct violation of God's will. Samuel rebuked Saul, telling him that his kingdom would not endure because of his disobedience. This was the turning point. Saul had been warned, but would he learn from his mistake or let pride continue to cloud his judgment? This act of disobedience marked the beginning of a series of missteps that would ultimately lead to his rejection by God. Saul's pride and jealousy. As Saul continued to lead, pride began to take root in his heart. His military victories had granted him popularity and power, but over time these achievements turned into arrogance. Saul believed he was untouchable, that he could make decisions without consulting God. This pride became most evident in his decision to spare King Agag of the Amalekites and keep the best of the livestock, despite God's command to destroy everything. Samuel confronted Saul, telling him that God valued obedience over sacrifice. Saul's reaction? A mixture of defensiveness and justification. His pride was his downfall. At the same time, Saul's jealousy toward David grew. David, a young man who had earned Israel's favor after defeating Goliath, became a threat to Saul's throne. Saul's jealousy consumed him. Instead of seeing David as a loyal servant of Israel, Saul saw him as a rival. His jealousy turned into paranoia, and he began plotting David's death. The king who had once been humble and obedient was now being driven by fear and pride. How far would Saul go to maintain his reign? His jealousy would cost him everything. The rejection of Saul. The final stage of Saul's downfall came with his utter rejection by God. In 1 Samuel 15, Saul was once again disobedient. God had commanded him to completely destroy the Amalekites and all their possessions. But Saul, instead of fully obeying, spared the life of King Agag and kept the best of the livestock. When confronted by Samuel, Saul tried to justify his actions, claiming he intended to offer the spoils of war as sacrifices to God. Samuel's response was clear: to obey is better than sacrifice. Saul had failed the test. Again, God, through Samuel, informed Saul that he had rejected him as king. This moment was a breaking point. Saul's kingdom was slipping away. His inability to fully surrender to God's will left him with nothing. His rejection was not sudden. It was the result of a long-standing pattern of disobedience and self-reliance. Could Saul have turned back? Could he have repented and restored his relationship with God? Unfortunately, Saul's heart had hardened, and the opportunity for redemption slipped away. Saul's tragic end. Saul's life ended in a tragic and ironic way. After being rejected by God, Saul continued to make rash decisions. When the Philistines gathered against Israel for battle, Saul was overcome with fear and anxiety. In desperation, he sought counsel from a medium, an act that was completely against God's will. Saul's attempt to consult the spirit of Samuel only deepened his disobedience. As the battle with the Philistines loomed, Saul knew the end was near. His army was defeated, and his sons were killed. In his final moments, Saul took his own life to avoid capture. The king who had once stood tall and commanded armies had been reduced to a shadow of his former self. His death was a direct result of his own choices driven by pride, disobedience, and fear. It's a tragic reminder that the road to destruction is often paved with small, seemingly insignificant decisions that over time lead to irreversible consequences. The lessons from Saul's story. The story of Saul is filled with lessons for us all. It teaches us about the dangers of pride, disobedience, and jealousy. Saul's early success was not enough to protect him from his own flaws. His downfall reminds us that it's not enough to start well. We must finish well. We also learn that obedience to God is the key to lasting success. Saul's pride and jealousy clouded his judgment, and in the end, it led to his rejection. What does that say about our own lives? Are we willing to obey God fully, even when it's difficult? Are we willing to humble ourselves and seek His guidance? Saul's story is a powerful reminder that God values obedience and humility above all else. The impact of Saul's story. Today, Saul's life resonates with us today, especially in a world where success is often defined by power, status, and wealth. His story challenges us to focus on what truly matters: obedience to God and humility before Him. In a world that celebrates self-reliance and individualism, Saul's downfall warns us about the dangers of pride and self-sufficiency. It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that our own strength and abilities can carry us through. But Saul's life shows us that only by staying humble and obedient to God can we avoid the same fate. His story reminds us to keep our hearts open to God's guidance, even in times of success. King Saul's life is a cautionary tale of greatness lost to pride and disobedience. He was chosen by God for a special purpose, but his refusal to obey God led to his rejection. Saul's story is a powerful reminder of the importance of staying humble and obedient, no matter how successful we become. God's favor is not something we can take for granted, and when we stop listening to Him, we risk losing everything. Saul's tragic end serves as a warning to all of us. Obedience is key, and pride comes before a fall. So if you found this video inspiring, make sure to subscribe to Story of Grace and stay tuned for more powerful and thought-provoking stories. True greatness comes from humility and obedience. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.